Welcome back to We Never Left. This episode, we have Simon Molitor from Solana ID, the co-founder of Solana ID. Welcome, Simon. How are you?
Thank you. GM. I'm good. Thanks for having me, Imran. How are you?
I'm great. So we just started out with 2025. This is actually the first recording that we're doing in 2025. Before we get to the thick of it, just wanted to get your very quick thesis or outlook for what's going to happen in 2025 and what you're excited about.
Well, I think we're still in the bull market, so we're not done yet. Of course, there's more to come in crypto. I think we're just getting started in a few areas. The most mindshare right now is going to agents, not going to lie. So AI agents are capturing most of the attention in crypto. I think we might see a DeFi summer with agent instead of DeFi. So it will be a new narrative that's going to play out this year. So what we've seen before with NFTs, what we've seen before with meme coins, what we've seen before with DeFi, it is a recurring theme in crypto. People just jump on a narrative if it makes sense, and then it sticks for a while, and then prices go irrationally high, usually, and kind of create some sort of bubble. So I would call that prediction that this is going to happen in the agent space. I think it's already happening right now in a speed that we haven't seen so far in any other industry, because in the past 3 weeks, prices just went vertical for a few of those agents. And that will also require a lot of new tooling and infra, including identity, by the way, in the Web3 space. That's all going to happen now in 2025. So a lot of stuff happening in 2025, but it will be choppy, and it will be hectic and chaotic, but it will be a bull market. So that's my outlook for.
And we will definitely double click on that, where I think there is that flip or the other side of that coin of the agent proliferation, the need for understanding who are real humans, and then therefore the real use case of a DID. So I think that kind of like is a snippet or a tease for what's to come. So let's get into the first question, which is, can you share a bit more about that personal journey that you've had into crypto so far, and how do you get here?
For sure. So I've been a founder since a long time. Basically, I finished high school and I never really had a real job, I would say. I didn't even go to university initially. I did that kind of later on. But I always wanted in my early 16s or in my early teenage years, I always wanted to do my own thing, right? So I picked up the 4-Hour Workweek. Do you know the book from Tim Ferriss? Very iconic piece. Yeah. So I picked up the 4-Hour Workweek. That's usually how it starts. If you read that book when you're 15, it's over. You're going to be a founder. And that's what basically happened to me. So I did a lot of traveling. I kind of found myself in my end of the teenage years. I opened the first business, which was the personal training business, because I was very passionate about healthcare and training back then. I'm still. And then there was my first venture that I really did. I had a few clients and everything. And I kind of found myself in the driver's seat as a founder, and I felt comfortable. And I knew this is gonna be what I do, right? Then I went back to university. I studied business, finance. I kind of tapped my toes in venture capital, which is the other side of the table. So now I was looking at startups. I was looking at founders, analyzing them from the outside. And I really fell in love with the idea of being a venture capitalist. But then crypto happened. I was in healthcare still. So I was basically working in a health tech VC. But then I fell in the crypto rabbit hole. I played around with Radium. Radium was my first DeFi protocol that I used very early on Solana, basically 2021. And then I saw how quick you can do financial transactions there, how quick you can tap into banking services without a bank, how easy it is to transfer money from one side of the world to the other side of the world. I was like, okay, I think we're onto something. Yeah. And I told it to my GP in the venture capital fund, and I was like, we should look at crypto in the healthcare space. We should look at distributed ledger technology, DLT. And he was like, maybe in 5 years. And that's when I quit my job. and I left the VC fund, and I made the decision together with my best friend, who's my co-founder now, to work in crypto, do something. And that's from there to here, a lot happened. But that's basically the decision. We made the decision. We quit our jobs. We wanted to do something in crypto. We were brainstorming a lot. And now we ended up at Solana ID. There's a lot of stuff in between that I won't cover now to not give a too lengthy answer, but we can double click on a few things if you want. But that's basically the backstory.
Cool. And you have a famous claim of being the most jacked founder in Solana. You think that's true?
Yeah. So far,
did you used to be competitive?
I did. Yeah, I was competitive for like a good 5 years of my life. I did
competitive
like 7
bodybuilding. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, I still have like the pics on my phone from competition mode, right? Where I'm like all
Amazing.
jacked, all lean shit, and then on stage I won a few first places and stuff. So that was a very important part of my life. I still train a lot. I'm still trying to maintain my muscle mass. It's a part of my life, a part of my routine as well. But I don't really have the capacity right now to compete. But I did make a commitment to our community at Solana ID that if we cross 100 million market cap, I will compete again. Right now we're below 10, so we still have more than a 10x to do. But if we do that, then I will have to go on stage again, and I do it.
So I'm curious, from the competition mode to founder mode, what did you feel were practices that help you excel in what you're doing today? If there's anything that crossed over.
Everything about it. Like literally every single aspect of bodybuilding and weightlifting and the fitness journey is a crossover to being an entrepreneur or founder or someone that seeks for success in business. The most basic thing you learn is you have to go through shit and you have to endure pain and you have to suffer a bit to then see some light at the end of the tunnel. But it is far away. The light is far away. You don't have quick wins, right? So in the gym, it is the most honest work you can do, because you won't look good. You won't have a good physique. You can do whatever you want. You can take whatever supplements you want. You can try to cheat. Nothing is going to work. You can make surgeries if you want. You're still going to look worse than someone that is putting honest work in the gym into repetitions that hurt. Right. So, and it's the same as a founder. Like people are always looking for shortcuts. They're looking for quick wins. How can I make money now? I have this idea, I have that idea. There is no freaking shortcut. You have to go through some pain, you have to endure, you have to stick to a plan that you have, iterate on top of it, and then you might have some successful outcome at the end. Same in the gym. I think that's the most base primitive that I can that's overlapping to the founder world, in my opinion.
I was someone that never had this background in health and fitness and bodybuilding. I only started dabbling and then over time taking it more seriously. And I realized like everything around the routine and
Yeah.
the progressive overload and even like being super data centric, right? Like everything you're
Yeah.
measuring and everything you're looking at the cause and effect and you're iterating and iterating and iterating. And I think there's just so many parallels to like just what makes meaningful iteration and growth, whether it's in crypto or whether it's in any really worthwhile venture. So yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I really wish, I really, really, really wish that I had been exposed and got myself into it much earlier.
It's not too late,
So yeah, yeah. So right now I do I do a lift a lift day every 3 days, and it's like a super
Perfect.
important part of my life. And I could
There
feel
you
it
go.
when I went for the Christmas period, and I was with my
And you didn't go.
in-laws, and I didn't have the routine, and I just felt
Yeah, you feel
horrible,
bad.
so flat. Yeah,
Yeah.
so horrible. So let's move into like the space that we are gonna talk about today with Solana ID. Can you
Mm.
share with me, especially with the context of your background, firstly within health and then within the VC? Like, how did you decide to go into this
Yeah.
space, and exactly what are you trying to tackle with Solana ID?
Right. So the thing, like I said, the way we started as a founding team, me and my co-founder and best buddy, the way we started was with the intention of solving a problem in crypto that is not having been solved yet, with our drive and ambition as founders. We didn't have any bias for a specific problem, which is actually a beautiful thing as a founder. If you're not too focused on one thing, like if this is not, some people have one expertise and they say, I do only agents right now, or I do only DeFi or whatever, but you quickly get stuck, and you stop to open your horizon and broaden your horizon and look at other solutions. And then that's the worst thing that can happen. You end in the build trap, which is you just build and build and build, and no one gives a shit because you're kind of building away from the market. So we were really market driven. We were looking at what problems do exist back then. It was end of 2022. What problems do exist in Web3, and how can we solve them with what kind of solution? And we identified one thing that annoyed us a lot, and it was inefficiency in the lending and borrowing market. If you want to lend money in the real world, obviously you can get a consumer credit, and you don't have to put your house behind it. You don't have to bring $50,000 to get 10K from the bank account. You can get a credit line if you need money just with your identity, basically. So just with showing your track record, just, giving some assurances to the bank. In crypto, in DeFi, in the Web3 world, we didn't have any assurances that we can give to a DeFi protocol because we're too private. Our crypto wallets are so private that we don't have a personality, we don't have an identity, we have nothing to show. There's obviously no credit score, so nothing really can be used to do under collateralized or even collateral-free loans. That was a problem back in end of 2022, and still until today, it hasn't really been solved fully because it is freaking complicated to do that in a permissionless way with decentralized platforms. But we thought back then the only way to solve this is to have some form of on-chain identity that you can bring as an assurance to a credit protocol, to a decentralized lending platform, and tell them, look, I did good in the past, so I will be good in the future. Now give me better terms. And that is exactly what we still do today. We're trying to help people to prove that they've done good things in the past, build a good reputation, and then show that to DApps in a verifiably true way to then get better offers and better rewards from those DApps than other people. That is basically Solana ID in a nutshell. Funny enough, we did a lot of iterations and kind of we changed a lot since back 2022 today, but the core premise is still the same now that I talk about it. It's still kind of the
basically
same, right?
this creates a mechanism that creates trust in a trustless world, right?
It does, right? Because trustless is nice if machines work with machines, then it can be really trustless. But if humans are in the mix, a trustless world is kind of difficult to navigate as human. You kind of get the whole human sense gets lost, and that leads to friction in the user experience, which is, for example, over collateralized loans. It's a friction in the user experience, in my opinion. Because if I need money, I want to take a loan, and I don't have double the amount of the money I want to take out right now. Otherwise, I wouldn't want to take a loan. So, it didn't like the whole lending market really in crypto is just for like people that want to take leverage, right? And want to get more exposure.
And what you're saying here is just really in that very specific use case within DeFi and collateralized or under collateralized loans. But if I were to kind of like, I've looked into DID and like when I'm looking at it, there's like this whole big world around like everything to do with figuring out how to bring ministry operations on chain, citizens operations on chain, or even this whole big healthcare industry, genetics, and
There's
blood tests. You have people like Pulse and stuff like that building out health stuff on Solana. And then you have many others trying to do all that, right? But like I think like one big key to unlock and to be able to connect all of this information is that DID component. And I think that's really, really interesting. And in a world where AI agents are coming in more and more and more, and everyone's going to have an AI agent, there's going to be millions of AI agents tweeting to each other and AI agents transacting to each other, then there's going to be this world where it's going to be ultra valuable in order to be able to identify and verify that there's a real human and the underlying information underneath that.
Yeah. And there's so many proofs for that. Like, I know that I'm not insane with my ideas because other smart people doing something similar. Why do you think WorldCoin has seen such a insane amount of popularity? Not only because they give a lot of free money away with their grant system. That is actually the main reason why they have so many users. But they also have a point, and they're smart, right? They're not stupid people. So they're trying to build this kind of secluded chain, right? Now they have a word chain for humans, right? Where humans can interact with each other, which is beautiful. But we believe that it should be either not only on this one chain that is owned by this creepy guy who's building AI. Like we want to be in a decentralized ecosystem like Solana that is permissionless and there's not governed by one company or person. And we want to even maybe go agnostic one day, right? That's also on the table.
That's an interesting question, right? Because I think there are many layers to this question, but I think fundamentally what you're saying here is you chose to build it as an app layer or a dApp layer as opposed to some others which basically built a whole chain around that platform. Or let's say if I were to think like people like Polygon spun off essentially a Polygon ID as part of their labs entity. So like there's different approaches. So how are you like what's the thesis here, right? Like why do you choose to build that dApp layer? Why on Solana? And how do you think that's gonna essentially be able to take on the world or take on this industry and create some sort of level of growth and valuation for you and your business and your protocol in a way that it is superior to others.
Yeah, I think this is the right moment to talk about the specific use case we're building on top of the identity protocol we're building. Because Solana ID itself, the ID protocol, is great, but an identity is meaningless if you don't have a use case on top of it. I always say that, and I keep saying it because it is very important to me, because it's just so true. Like, identities are completely meaningless if you can't do anything with it. Just imagine if you can't do anything with your passport, you don't give a shit about your passport. So you don't actually care about the document, you don't care about the number on it, you only care about the use case. So what's the use case with Solana ID right now? It is to help people in the internet, whoever it is, humans, agents, whatever, who might have a Solana ID, but to help Solana ID holders to get more value on top of their private data in the Solana ecosystem right now, in that capsulated world. So that's the main use case for users, which is very straightforward. It's one tagline that we chose: personal perks on chain. Get more data, get more value out of your data on chain, by proving that you own a specific reputation backpack. And then this is the B2C angle of it. But then the D app that we're building is a B2C2B platform. So obviously now we have these identity holders that bring their data with them, that have profiles with them on chain and so on. And now we have D apps, decentralized applications, that are currently spending a lot of money on trying to capture attention of people, and they don't really know how to target the right people on chain because people are so private. We have a data problem on chain for targeted marketing, really, because we don't have the data to do the right things, right? So that is a big problem on the B2B side, right? So we have users, we're trying to help them to monetize their data, get more value for the data, and we have businesses trying to help them to find the right users, target the right audience, and spend your money in a way that your customer acquisition cost is not fucking 6 times higher than in Web 2, which was the latest stat that I read somewhere. Now, with that being said, to answer your question, now I close the circle. Why do I think this is a huge opportunity and a big potential market as well? Because targeted marketing is the biggest industry in the internet. It has been, and it is still in Web 2. Like, who are the biggest companies by valuation? If you look at them, it's all data and identity monopolies, basically. So people that own data and identities of people, Facebook and Google. And a few others, depending on the geography we're looking at. But it's all the same kind of playbook. Now we hate that as Web3 ethos-driven people, because they are literally reaping the rewards of your data without looping you in the loop at all. No monetization on your data, and no control over your data, really.
Exactly.
Like, when it comes down to it, we have laws in place that try to protect our data, while we could put code in place that we don't even need laws for, if the code is set in stone that the data really belongs to you. And you can do that with a decentralized identity framework, where you actually own the data, where it's optional for you to decide, do I want to show it or not. So with Solana ID, you can monetize your data, you can own your data and decide who wants to see it and who should not see it at the end of the day. And you're kind of solving these user problems in the Web 2 world, while still targeting the internet's biggest industry, which is targeted marketing on the DApp side. So while we're moving more and more into Web 3, I think Solana ID is building a very central piece of infrastructure, if you think about it, for exactly this purpose.
Like, and as a Web 3 CMO for the last 3+ years, I can verify and attest to the fact that attribution and knowing your users is a huge problem. I think the other part is that if you do have all that on-chain data, not just for the users, you have that sovereignty of data, you have the mobility of data, you have the monetization for data, but you actually have the ability to have that data be reusable, and have dApps essentially go to market so much faster, right? So like, if I have that blood report that's on chain and it's tied to my DID and it's sovereign and I can monetize it and it's mobile, then I don't need to go to 5 different providers and take 5 different blood tests, which is the case right now today with a lot of Web2 industry, simply because they don't talk to each other and they want to monetize you, including the extra blood test. But now with the on-chain data, then you start having like all these things being so seamless, and like the time to market is just so much faster. And I think that's like super, super, super cool. So do you think then that DID, like having like this infra that you feel that is super important for the user side, but even the B2B side, do you think that this is going to be the gateway or a piece to the gateway to mass adoption for crypto?
That is a very good point that you're making. It's funny that you say it because I've been saying this since like 4 years. Because I like if you think that if you have been long enough in crypto, even probably you have to be longer in crypto than myself to know that. I think, but I've heard from friends that this was a big topic, before 2017 even, where people talked about, oh, this crypto technology, it can help, us to own data. It can give us sovereignty over our data. That's been the narrative for so long, and there's been so many ideas like thrown around in that field, and I still believe until today that this is going to be a key for mass adoption if we play it right. I think the timing was just off all the time in the past years. For many, there were a lot of good projects in the identity space, in the privacy space, like circling around these topics, but I think they've been unfortunately at the wrong time. And they tried very hard, and like Polygon ID were one of them that suffered from this a little bit, and they had to rebrand now, and they're kind of finding their way now again, and they have a really strong team, so I believe in them. But I think now we're much closer to the point where we have the dApps, we have the users already, at least on Solana, for example, in the crypto space, to bootstrap ideas like this to an extent that we reach a level of users and apps and integrations, that we reach a critical mass, that it becomes interesting for even people that are outside of crypto. So can I put an advertisement on Twitter or on Facebook or on Instagram that says, hey, have you heard about this Solana ecosystem where you can trade NFTs and tokens and so on? If you want to enter, claim your Solana ID now and monetize your data in that ecosystem and be a VIP in the Solana ecosystem. So Solana ID becomes the portal for new people to join Solana. And they will just have a better experience by just setting up their ID, because they enter the ecosystem as someone instead of completely random new wallet, right? Because they bring their data with them. When they set up a Solana ID profile, sure, they can create a completely new wallet. They don't have on-chain score. They don't have on-chain history, but at least they can bring some off-chain credentials into their data backpack. And that can help them to get better offers on-chain already. So I think it can be a huge unlock for adoption and new people flocking in to crypto.
I see. And I think especially with regard to your retail mass users who do want to claim some sort of identity, because it's the behavior that they're pretty much used to, as opposed to many of the speculative degens who want to remain anon. I think that's very interesting. So like you talk about the people coming in and having a VIP Solana experience. I took a look at everything that you guys have to offer and all the partnerships that you have. You guys recently did the Solid token. You have priority passes. You have various partnership campaigns. There's like so much going on. Could you give me a nutshell around, like, if people want to understand the Solid token and then the ecosystem that you guys are trying to build out and push out right now? Like, how should I navigate it as a user today? What should I be looking out for? Any alpha, if you'd like to share.
Okay, so quick backstory. We launched the token on the 19th of December last year, right? That's when Solid went live. We tried to do an as fair launch as possible. So our whole token strategy is very community centric. So we didn't raise a lot of money in our private rounds because we kept our valuation as low as possible to not do a high FTV launch. So since day one, we're trying to keep the FTV as low as possible. That's also why we only collected $1 million, which is enough for us to bootstrap the protocol until the point that it becomes revenue generating, if you do it right as a founder. What a lot of projects did wrong in the past was just like raising ridiculous amounts of money that they don't need, then be completely capital inefficient with it, throwing it around, and then having to launch that token at a 500 to 1 billion FTV or even higher. And that usually created only downside pressure going forward.
Exactly.
We tried to flip that play, right? Like other projects. We're not the first one. I think the biggest one right now that is kind of trying to flip this script a bit was Hyperliquid, which was very successful at their strategy as well. No centralized exchange listings too early, no market makers too early, no VCs too early. So all these kind of more sophisticated players that you need as a large protocol, you need to keep them waiting as long as possible, because all these people want to get paid and they want to make money out of you and suck it out of you and your community. So we didn't, onboard big market makers early on. We didn't list on any centralized exchanges for horrendous fees. So very kind of community-centric strategy, launched at 20 mil FTV, rode the wave up to 70, are now trading around 40. And then we're just getting started. So if you want more alpha, I think the next big thing that's happening is the actual product launch. So right now, we don't have a live product that you need to keep that in mind. Like our token is performing quite well right now without even having any utility really, to be honest, because the product is not really live. So the product is going to launch in the next 2 to 4 weeks-ish. Let's see how the dev roadmap gets along, if we can keep our promises there, but we're pushing for it. And then everyone can claim their Solana ID, can set up their profile, and can also lock their solid tokens inside of their ID profile to increase their solid score with us. So they get more benefits, more perks inside the Solana ID ecosystem. That's the main utility of the token. With Solana ID, you're already VIP. If you want to elevate your status, you can lock solid tokens behind your score. And this will give you even better perks on chain. In the later stage, we're going to use this as a collateral system even. So if you misbehave against your score, you might get a slash in your collateral, the solid tokens you stake. But this can unlock very, very nice perks like collateral-free loans and similar things. So the roadmap towards the token utility is quite interesting. And we're also working on a governance kind of format similar to the Jupiter ASR system. So we're going to have the solid staking reward system where if you stake your solid to improve your score, you can also take part in proposals and community proposals. And if you do that, you will tap into a pool of solid tokens that is exclusively reserved for people that take part into governance. And then every 3 to 6 months, you get a payout from the solid staking reward pool. So those are things that are going to launch quite soon. So we're going to see a lot of, hype and noise, I would say, around Solana ID and the token. Right now, I think we're still a bit, in the quiet when it comes to the marketing because we didn't do the big pushes yet.
So for someone that's kind of like trying to look into the solid token, the governance, the whole model, like what's the business model that you guys are running on? How do you guys generate fees? And also like in terms of that addressable market that you guys are looking at in terms of like that long span of let's say 3 years, 5 years. What's that size that you guys think that can be captured over this period?
Yeah, so the market is obviously massive because with our current use case that can expand as well. With our current use case, we're tapping into the targeted marketing industry, right? So basically, marketing budgets of applications, of the apps that are growing at a huge compounded annual interest. Like even the DApps themselves, they're growing a lot, right? Now, like with this growth together, there's also going to be more marketing spend, and that needs to be targeted more than today. And Solana ID should be one of the first destinations you go as a company on Solana, especially. To do target marketing and spend your money efficiently. So we do charge the businesses. It's a B2B model, bottom line. So for every data query to Solana ID holder, or even for every data query to a non-Solana ID holder, but if you want to know the on-chain score that we calculate to any crypto wallet on Solana, you pay a couple cents as a DM. Then you can make your own business logic decision on top of that, and you can say, okay, I want to have the top 5% of the score holders, and I want to try to catch their attention and give them a perk. And then we even help with the outreach and how to reach these people. But it's kind of a pay per query transaction model on the B2B side. So the more integrations we have on Solana, the more queries will be made to users, and the more revenues we make. All the revenues are either directly in Solid because we want to incentivize the apps to pay us in Solid. If they don't do that, because many of them just have a stablecoin treasury, the protocol will basically buy back the own token, the solid token, with the revenues we make from the DApp queries. We also make money on the B2C side, so that would be the second part. Because initially there will be some promos, so people can sign up for free to Solana ID. But as it is a VIP account, it's kind of like an Amex Black, it's an exclusive card that you have in Solana to get perks on chain. You can pay for that, right? Like people pay a lot of money for these kind of exclusive access things in the real world. So we're going to charge initially a one-time fee of up to $10. So it's quite reasonable for people to set up their Solana ID once and then be able to claim the perks that come along with it for the time coming. So we also make money on the B2C side, basically, with the same buyback mechanism that on the B2B side.
Very cool. Very interesting to see how it works, and really looking forward to see how that competes with the other models in the industry. So like on that point, I would like to ask, right? Like, what do you think other people in the industry get wrong? What is the take that you think that most people get wrong in the industry today that you actually are taking a different approach on?
There's too much noise, and people are just focused on that. They're just trying to get numbers up, and KPIs, right? Instead of actually quality users. And that brought us here where we are today. There's a lot of noise in crypto, right? So it's annoying. It could potentially even kill the industry. So I think we need solutions like us that are really looking to try to fish out the right accounts from the masses, right? To help the apps to identify actual quality users based on their on-chain track record or even off-chain credentials. Because let's be honest, Galaxy, Zeely, and all those kind of Quest campaigns, they're great. And there is ways to use them efficiently, even we use them to a certain degree. But you need to be true to yourself that it's not an efficient marketing tool to get users that will love your product and pay for future services. It's just not that. Like, it's really hard to kind of find your target audience with ZD. That's not what it's there for. It's literally there to boost numbers. Let's be real. Right? It's there to boost numbers on the screen, which works quite well. But what you do as a company is basically you're paying people off to pay attention to you, which is, like, it is okay. But if you do it too much, then you don't get any quality users. So I think what we do right is helping the apps to actually target people that care about their product, that are potentially spending money in future on using their product, right? So if we talk to a DEX, or if we talk to someone that's building a liquidity provisioning platform, they want to know who's providing liquidity on Solana and other venues, how big are they, what's their track record, and how can I reach these people to get them on my platform? Maybe they want to even know, are those people active on other blockchains? So then it becomes very interesting as well what we're building in the future, where you can aggregate wallets from various blockchains. So you connect your MetaMask and so on to your Solana ID, and we bring other blockchains data to the Solana ecosystem to help the apps on Solana identify liquidity provisioning whales from Ethereum and target them to do the same on Solana. So there's some cool things we can do to do everything just more data driven and targeted.
That's very interesting. And I think like this is a real problem from the protocol side, everything around airdrop farmers and bots and many of the platforms that we've mentioned. Some of them are pretty much well known to be the largest bot farms within the on-chain ecosystem. And I think that creates not just a problem of bloat, right? But it's also a problem of resource and attention, meaning that you are actually talking to someone that's controlling like 30 bot wallets who doesn't give a shit about your protocol. It's just farming you, but you're giving them resources, you're giving them incentives, you're talking to them, and then meanwhile there is that opportunity cost of actually real people on the site being sidelined because you're doing that, right? They actually care, right? So I think like that is a huge problem that needs to be solved, and I think the only real way is to try to figure out how to pay attention to the real human beings. Yeah, so I think that's a very important point that you raised. Second last question from me is what's the most controversial opinion that you have about crypto?
The most controversial opinion about crypto as a whole. That's actually a difficult one. I've been asked that before, I think. Actually, I don't know if I have a smart answer to that. But right now, I think most people are a bit worried about the future of crypto. Like I see a lot of negative voices as well in the past time, especially in the normie circles. So I think we just need to focus on the right narratives and then not bleed them out to death, which we did in the past, because that creates all the negative around it, because those bubbles burst and so on. So I think I would say that if we do that right, then crypto will remain. But I think if we actually there's a potential as well that we fuck up the industry as founders if we don't solve the problem right. Because that's just too much, like I said, too much noise, too much scam, too much bubbles, too much, wrong attention to the wrong things. And there needs to be system in place that channel that capital and that attention to the right places. Otherwise it kind of blows up. And I don't want to see that industry go bust, because I think we have a lot of potential with the technology to actually change something. But there's a lot of forces pulling us in other directions. So I think it can go wrong. So that's kind of a pessimistic outlook to the whole industry. But we rely on the right builders to make some right decisions, to put it in the right lane. So obviously, me personally, I'm optimistic and I remain bullish.
Yeah. So like, how do you? And I think maybe as a founder, participant, and VC, you've had many lenses looking at the industry. How do you differentiate the froth from, or the noise from, the
Mm,
essence and the meat, right? Like, and I think
mm,
if I were to ask or to recall, like for example, someone did ask, I think Jeff Bezos, what he thought about AI, and he said AI is going to be like one of the most defining technologies of a generation. It's like the largest horizontal industry because it's going to touch like every single thing, like everything that we
mm,
do, from
mm,
workspace automation to tweeting to coding to everything's going to be touched by AI. But there is a narrative of crypto AI, and I like
yeah.
personally, I think there's a lot of froth and noise there. Like it's almost
Mm,
kind of like a bubble, like the metaverse of last
it is. Yeah.
season. And then that's just
It
my
is.
personal take, right? But
Yeah.
as a VC and founder, what do you
Mm.
look out for to look out between and to separate and distinguish between the noise and the essence?
Feasible vision. That would be the, if you bring it down to it. So a vision that's actually feasible, that can be implemented. I see too many people just talking again and not doing anything. And even what they talk about won't be realistic to implement in the next 6 to 12 months. So like, red flag for me, if I see a project launching a token and then putting out some demos of a product that they are, at least they're saying they're building it. But those demos are usually just some Figmas or some, random shit. And then they say, okay, yeah, we're revolutionizing this and that. But if I look at it and it's not feasible in the next 6 months, I think they won't make it at all. So it needs to be something that they talk about, that they envision, that is actually feasible in the next 6 months to be implemented. Especially if you attach a token to it, because that's, I think, what we're talking about. We see a lot of agent projects and AI projects that launch a token and it's just a pump and dump again. Not because someone is rugging
Yes.
it, but it's an attention pump and dump, how I
Yeah,
would call it.
exactly.
They can't commit to what they actually promised to do, right? And that happens so many times in crypto. So I need to look at it and I need to feel comfortable that they can actually reach the milestones in the next 6 months that are realistic, to keep the attention up that they initially sparked when they talk about their big vision. So if the words are too loud and the action's too small, and it's even not feasible what they're talking about, then huge red flag, and I would not even give a shit about it. But there's many good projects that actually build in the agent space and in the AI space that are very feasible, and they're shipping constantly and they're delivering, and we see it in the token price. So there's a reason why Cerebro, AI 16Z, and Virtuals and the others are so big right now, because they're shipping, they're talking about things that actually make sense, and they're delivering on what they promise step by step along the way. So I believe in these ones. By the way, no financial advice, but those are
Yeah.
some that I think are actually feasible to change the internet. And for crypto, this is a huge unlock, by the way, because agents need to make transactions and they need
Yes.
to own internet accounts, and the crypto wallet is the best thing for them to do, because they can govern it completely by themselves, owning even the access to it, the private keys. So I think maybe another thesis from my side is that I think agents and AI is going to unlock a new complete bull cycle for crypto in the long term. The more and more agents will utilize crypto, the more transactions we're going to see in our beautiful DApps, and that's a win for us, right? Overall.
Yeah, and I think a lot of TradFi is actually done via programmatic and bots anyway.
Yeah,
So I think like it's
true.
it's inevitable that's gonna hit down there. And as a DeFi maxi, I'm so happy to see that coming
Mm,
true as well. So I
yeah.
think my last question is, if you could remove someone or some organization from the industry, who would you and why?
If I could remove someone from the industry. Um, okay, that could be controversial as well, though. But it would be definitely some of the centralized players that are in the market. I'd probably call out an exchange from the market. I don't like, it wouldn't be Coinbase really, but it would be one of the other major exchanges, the SXs, because I don't think they're net positive for it. We want two things. We want DApps to thrive. We want builders to thrive, startups that are building in the ecosystem to thrive. And they usually are not getting good deals with these players.
Yes.
And then secondly, we want on-chain transactions. We want on-chain liquidity. We want on-chain activity overall. And it shouldn't be consumed by centralized exchanges again. So I think I would remove I won't name the name here, but I would remove one of the big SEXs. Because I think this would unlock actually a huge win for the crypto industry itself.
Honestly, I love it, and we just hit 20% DEX to SEX volume on a daily basis.
Yeah,
and I think it's just a matter of time.
True.
Cool.
Yeah.
So thanks for seeing through this. If people want to know more about Solana ID, and if there's anything that you'd like to shout out just before we do, I think now's the time, Simon.
Yeah, for sure. So very easy to find us. If you type in Solana ID in your Twitter search function, you should find the Solana identity handle. Follow us there. I think the Twitter feed is the best way to stay updated on the company news. And then me personally, I'm also quite active on Twitter. So Simon Molitor, Molitor, is the Twitter handle of myself. So you can also follow me there. Check out what I do. I have a few other socials, so you can also just go on simon-molitor.xyz and find all my social channels. And then lastly, my own podcast that I just started together with my dear friend Ino. That is also something people can check out. It's called the Sol Brothers Pod. So that would be also the Twitter handle. The Sol Brothers Pod launched end of last year. We're now at episode 10, but we're still kind of finding our rhythm and defining everything. We're going to have a big branding coming up next week. And then I think from there, it's going to be a pretty serious project.
Very interesting. Thanks so much, Simon. It was lovely talking. Can't wait to snapshot this, and we'll review this in maybe like a year or two and see where we go from
there. Fuck. Sounds dangerous, but let's do it. I'm down for that.
Okay, thanks. Cheers.
Cool. Thanks, Imran.